Hey guys, Final Death Star here, and today we're talking Carbonite. Or I should say the big freeze that Disney is putting on all of the standalone movies. They've just dropped them into the freezing chamber, and they're putting them in Carbonite for a while. How long? Oh, it's anyone's guess. I don't know. They've been kind of unclear of the details so far, but I guess they have announced a cancellation in the standalone films for at least the time being. And what does that mean for the future of Star Wars, for the future of the movies and the standalone stories? And do you think that Disney is handling this franchise in the right way? We will talk about this and more. So look, here's the thing. Disney, I don't think really knows what they're doing with the franchise. I don't think they have a plan. I think that's why they seem to have these major reactions when something hasn't gone according to their plan. Solo didn't do well at the box office, and then it was a week later they had announced that they were no longer going to be releasing 2 movies a year. They were going to stick to 1 movie a year. And now, a couple weeks later, now we have them announcing that there's going to be no standalone films. They're going to do away with that. We still have the Benioff and Weiss series of movies, whether that's a trilogy or a series. It probably will be a trilogy, but we don't know for sure. And the Rian Johnson trilogy that he's working on, which, if you're going to cancel the standalone movies, it's like Disney doesn't really get the fact that Rian Johnson's name is kind of a toxic name right now in the fandom. I think their whole plan for what they were going to do with the standalone, the Star Wars stories, was kind of off base. They had this idea of doing these separate movies that were kind of spin-offs, and what they should have focused on were stories and new characters, new stories to be told inside the Star Wars world that they could have some of the main characters from the original trilogy and the familiar characters weave in and out of those stories, but the movies shouldn't have focused around one character. They had the Rogue One, which was a good idea for them because that's a story that needed to be told. It fit in. It was kind of the bridging the gap of, it sort of bridged the gap. It's kind of more bridge the gap between Rebels and A New Hope. Not necessarily Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, but it was a story that we know from the epilogue from A New Hope. We know that there was this battle. They just won the first major victory, and the stolen plans were aboard Princess Leia's ship. We kind of knew that. So to see that, it sort of fit in with the overall arc of the original trilogy. Solo was just something that wasn't needed. Now the movie wasn't bad. I saw it. It was an entertaining, enjoyable movie. I had fun watching it, but it didn't need to be told. That's not really what, the fans wanted. It's not what we were asking for. It's like they just took the name Han Solo and figured, well, he's a popular character, so let's just make a movie around him, and we can't get Harrison Ford, so we'll make it a prequel and hire someone else. And, whether the movie was good or bad, it just wasn't a good idea going into that movie. It wasn't a good idea focusing around, especially Han Solo. For the general audience, they're not going to relate to someone who's playing such an iconic character, and it's not Harrison Ford. That's hard to relate to. I think that was one of the issues with Solo, that a lot of people just weren't crazy about seeing it because it wasn't Harrison, and why see someone else playing as Han Solo, and why do you need a movie about him? I think that was one issue. The second issue was the hardcore fans. Lucasfilm hasn't really focused on the hardcore fans, and they're the ones that they really need to be focusing on. Instead of trying to gain the general audience's approval of these movies, they should be focusing on the hardcore fans, because they're the ones that are going to be seeing the movie 3-4 times in the theater. They're the ones that are going to be posting blogs and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook posts about how great the movies are and telling all their friends and family. I mean, we're a vocal bunch. And if you make movies that we love, we're going to be seeing them multiple times. We're going to be telling everyone we know, oh, it's great. You got to go see it. You got to go see it. Because the excitement's there. And if anyone has ever talked to a friend who's excited about something, you're more inclined to be like, all right, we got to go check it out because, look how excited he is. I got to go see this. But when you make something that doesn't interest the fans as much, it's going to be harder to, and the general audience is already kind of not that wishy-washy on the whole idea, it's going to be a hard sell. And that's one of the problems. But that also leads into the major problem, which was Last Jedi, had left such a bad taste in the majority of fans' mouths that they kind of, they weren't excited to see Solo. It wasn't a movie they asked for. And then you have Lucasfilm, this whole online thing with the attacks back and forth. That's not making the fans happy. So they boycotted the movie, and they're not telling their friends to go see it. And then you have Lucasfilm not really understanding that. If we look at the plan that they had just canceled, the next movie up was the Boba Fett movie. And then they had plans for, there were rumored plans for an Obi-Wan movie. And then there were plans, or another rumor, about possibility of a Yoda movie. There was the talk of a Princess Leia movie. Now, a lot of these were just rumors. But still, it's one familiar character after another familiar character. Where I don't want to see just movies of all the characters that I've loved from the past, some of which are all being recast. I want a story. I want an original story. A Solo would have been a great idea, I think, had they not named it Solo, had they not had Han Solo in it, or if he was going to be in it as just an extra character that kind of cameoed here and there. I would have liked to have seen a movie like a Shadows of the Empire movie, something with Dax Rendar being the main focus of that book. It doesn't have to be Dax Rendar in the movie, but something like that, where it's a different space pirate or a different smuggler, and he could interact with Han Solo. He could interact with Jabba the Hutt. Boba Fett, that was another movie. Jabba the Hutt was also a rumored, maybe we'll do a Jabba the Hutt story. But these characters could interact with new characters, in a different way than what the episodes are doing, because the episodes are just taking everything we loved right now, or everything we've loved of the past, and interjecting new characters into it, but forcing the other characters out of the way. They're just doing a bad job at it. It's kind of the right idea, what they were trying to go for. It's just the execution has been poor, because they've been angering fans by mistreating all of the characters we've loved. So if they would have done that in the standalone films, but in the correct way, where you don't have to disrespect the characters we love, but just have them as kind of background characters, interjecting themselves in the stories and then exiting the stories, but focusing on someone else, a new character, it would have been a better idea for them. I want to see a crime syndicate movie. I don't want to see Jabba the Hutt as the focus of the movie, but sure, he can be involved in it. He can, enter in, or it doesn't even have to be Jabba. You could use any of the Hutts. Doesn't have to be Jabba. But, to see, to focus on stories with familiar characters where we already know their arc and we already know what happens to them, it gets a little, redundant or a little pointless. So that's a main issue that I think these standalone movies have. And possibly canceling them or putting them on hold, that may be a good idea. Also, that leads the one to wonder if the rumors of Kathleen Kennedy stepping down in September hold any water. If those are true. Because if that is true, that would sort of make sense that they are kind of putting everything they had planned on hold until the replacement, comes into play, which one can only wish it would be Dave Filoni, but, I don't know. But that's probably not going to happen. But it does leave one to wonder if there is something to that, because it would make sense to let the next person come in and kind of reorganize or come up with a solid plan, which seems like, they don't have right now. So that's something to think about as well. The Rian Johnson movies, I think, need to be canceled. I think the idea of those, that's the right direction. New stories, a new trilogy that doesn't interact with the Skywalker saga. It takes place in a different part of the galaxy. It's something we've never seen before. That's a great idea. I'd love to see that. I just don't think Rian Johnson is the right person to be, heading those up right now. His name is just too acidic amongst a lot of the fandom, where that's a risky chance for Disney to take, especially if they're going to cancel the standalones and if they're going to focus on, I guess after episode 9 it would be Rian Johnson's trilogy. I just don't think that's a good idea. I like the idea of doing something different, new stories. I just don't like, it's not a smart move for them to to stick with that. I don't think, in my opinion. But, I don't know. I could be wrong. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? The Benioff and Weiss, I would stick with that too. If they're going to do an Old Republic, that's something fans want to see. We've been asking for. So, yeah, let us have that. And I mean, I don't put any original characters in it. It shouldn't be, because if they did the Old Republic, it should be before, I don't know, maybe Yoda would be alive, I guess, depending on how far back they went. But I think it should be a new story with new characters, and that's a good idea as well. And the Star Wars stories, maybe hold off on them for a little bit until you at least have a plan of how you'd want to run these movies. The Obi-Wan movie, that's something fans want, but it's not necessarily because it's Obi-Wan. It's because it's Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. If they didn't get Ewan McGregor, don't do that movie. If you get Ewan McGregor, it's just because he's so great as Obi-Wan. Why not? If they do it right. But again, it's not something that they need to tell the story of. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's a good idea for them to cancel these Star Wars stories, these standalone movies, or at least put them on hold for a while till they figure out a game plan, a solid game plan? Or do you think it's an overreaction and you still are excited and want to see the Boba Fett movie, the Obi-Wan movie? Let me know in the comments down below how you guys feel about that. Are you excited? What do you think the future of Star Wars is? Do you want to see the Rian Johnson set of movies, or do you at least think that movies that don't deal with the original trilogy characters would be a good idea? Let me know. I'm very interested to see how this is going to go over amongst the fandom. So if you liked the video, give it the old thumbs up and subscribe to see more content. I'll be putting out more, so there's a lot going on right now. So subscribe, and until next time, lock the doors and hope they don't have blasters.